Hello, this is Elaine Sugar, award-winning children's program facilitator and overall supporter of children's dreams. Welcome to the Empower Teen Self-Esteem podcast. We bring you ideas and resources that help teens shine and help ease parents' minds. Welcome to this episode of Empower Teen Self-Esteem. Today, we are talking with a professional coach about how you can apply some coaching skills to being a parent and how it doesn't mean that you always know everything in advance and get it all right, but you learn as you go along and you always do the best that you can. And then we also have some messages for teens today, and that's relieving some of that pressure to feel like you have to figure out exactly what you want to be when you grow up. You have to go to a certain college, all of that pressure that society has put on teens, just making sure that you know that it's not all that serious. It does not have to be all figured out. So I guess our theme today for parents and teens is it's all right if you don't have it all figured out. So to help me with this topic is a success coach and a project manager, Fiona Brennan. Hello, Fiona.
Hey Elaine, that was a great summary. So I love that. Yeah, I guess we just don't have to have it all figured out.
Yes, and that's a wonderful thing because who's perfect? So first, before we dig into the topic, can you just take a minute and tell everyone exactly what it is that you do?
Cool. Thank you, Elaine, for having me on this podcast with you. So I'm Fiona. I live in the west coast of Ireland in County Clare, and I am a success coach, as you said. I've been a success coach for about 18 months now, but that came after I have a project management business for construction. And I spent most of my life working with people directly, as most people do, but very much working with people in an empowered way to help them bring ideas and visions and into a reality. So I've done that through my project management, and now I do it through my coaching. So I work with business owners to help them create the life that they would love. It's not all about the business. So much of it is actually about you, the person themselves, and creating that little life that you have. So.
Awesome. And so tell us how it is that you know about teenagers.
Ooh. Well, the best way to know anything, Elaine, is actually in the doing. We can read all the books we want, but if you've got a teenager in your life, then you're actually doing the thing and you are learning as you go. So I have 3 wonderful kids, and the ages are 17, 15, and just turned 11 today. So yeah, so I'm all in those juicy double figures.
Wonderful.
So I've figured it out myself. And a lot of learning. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge with us. So let's get into it. What's the first nugget of wisdom that you want to share?
Yeah, so I suppose I want to talk about maybe the parenting role. And just giving my experience of what I've figured out, I suppose, over the years. And there is no book. There's lots of books, but I always felt that there wasn't that one book that really just explained how you do the raising of the child after they hit the 3 or 4 years of age. We get so much information and we absorb all the information on feeding, getting that first, the milk right and the little foods right. And we, send them off to school and we think, oh, great, they're at school now, pretty much we can relax. But every phase of age has its challenge and learning, I should say, and fun enjoyment, obviously, as well. But just when we think we've kind of got each little piece figured out, they themselves are still growing. Their minds are changing.
Yeah.
Everything, there's so much busyness going on for them in their little bodies. And yet I suppose we can come from a place where we just don't understand it because we forget what it was like to be young. And how do you get to figure that piece out? And one of the biggest things really that I discovered before I even went into my learning, but was just to be in the stage that you're at, never jumping forward too much, just being in that, whatever phase they're in, whatever age group they're in, whatever those surrounding challenges are, to just be with them in that, and to be as powerfully supportive as you can for them.
Can you give an example of that? Not going ahead of the stage, like for example,
We'll say, let's say, for example, your child is in school, or even before that, when they're, you know, the cute 2-year-olds, whatever, and you're thinking, oh, how will, you know, and you've got it all and you're able to go to work, or you're else you're at home with them, whichever you're doing. Our mind will always want to go to the future, and our mind will always want to kind of give us something to fixate a problem on. And we can tend to jump ahead. How am I going to figure it out when they go to school? How is this going to work? How am I going to get them into a school? How am I going to, you know, be able to balance everything? And we can send ourselves into a stress ball when there's no need, because you're not at that point yet.
Gotcha.
The same, say, repeating when maybe they're, you know, 7 or 8 and they're going into another stage, and you're like, oh my goodness, when they reach that, how am I going to figure it out? And you're constantly futuring in a negative way, not meaning any harm in it, but that's just the way the mind goes. So what I found is very powerful to just, when you find yourself going in that direction of futuring, the what ifs, how am I going to just pull it back and just say, just pause and just take a breath and just say, hang on a minute, I'm not there yet. I'm just here. And let me just be here with where they are right now, because they're not worrying about the future. Kids are actually, I mean, we've all been a kid, but we forget how we were as a kid. To learn it then is to actually just pay attention and watch them. And one of the greatest examples I do find is, you know, people talk about, oh, you know, the child doesn't listen to me, and I start talking and they're like, yeah, they're gone in 10 seconds, or they're gone off back, that they've switched off. That's because they're so in the present moment. They are limited in how much, you know, they want to take in. So they just want to see a little piece of information. They're kind of like, okay, fine, unless, you know, what's next. So they don't want to dwell, and we could learn so much from them to just not be dwelling in the stuff. Just, it is what it is, move on to the next piece. But just, it's very much just trying to just watch your kids, learn from your kids, but very much be with your kids, be with them in the moment. And the other thing is, for parents, and again, this is stuff that I learned, we will tend, especially moms, to beat ourselves up. I'm not doing enough for them. I'm not spending enough time with them. I'm not buying enough for them. I'm not, whatever, bringing them to the good enough school, or the good enough this or that. Or, you know, maybe I yelled at them, or maybe I didn't do something. And we tend to just beat ourselves up a lot. That fuels nobody in any positive way. And all that does is just create negative energy. Whereas if you just accept the fact that, look, kids don't really need that much from us. They don't need us to be there 100% of the time. They really, and I heard this, I read this somewhere, that kids really, from a child expert, they really only need about 20 or 30% of our time every day. But what they do need is the quality of that 20 or 30%.
That makes so much sense, Fiona. I love that.
You know, so when the child comes up to you and you're like, oh, no, just give me a few minutes, or, you know, I can't be talking to you, or, okay, you tell the story while I'm doing this. But actually, if you just down tools for those 60 seconds, because a lot of times that's all they actually want, is as little as 60 seconds, and just, you give full attention, they're satisfied, and then you get to go back to what you were doing. But we come at it from the opposite end. We come at it like, oh no, let me fix all this stuff, finish what I'm doing, and then I'll give you the time. At that stage, they've lost it, because you've probably seen this, and everyone will probably resonate with this. Yeah, that's the way you've done it. And then, okay, now tell me the story. I know, I forget it now. It doesn't matter now, because they've lost, they're gone from the moment. They've moved on, like. So just being present, just being powerfully present for the 20 seconds, the 60 seconds, the 5 minutes. That's all it is. They don't want intenseness. I do remember when the kids were, the boys were very small, and I was coming home from work late and collecting them from the creche, and it'd be all like about the food or whatever. And they'd be pulling you, and they might be throwing bits of tantrums. And I was trying to figure it out because I was on my own, because my husband worked long days, and my own family were like hours away from the car. So I was very much on my own trying to figure it out. And when they're the 2 and 3 age, you're trying to figure it out. But I discovered one evening, I don't know how I did it, but I just sat down on the floor for the few minutes to play with, I don't know, their cars or their Lego or whatever. And after 10 minutes of doing that, they were happy out, and I was able to then go back and do whatever, get the meal ready, get the chores done. They just wanted those 10 or 15 minutes with me. That was it. Then they had their fix, and they're like, okay, I'm on to the cartoons now. It's grand. So it's just being there. And this leads right up to being the teenager. So the teenagers are exactly the same, except their fuse is even shorter. So you really have to be like, okay, Mom, I've got a question to ask you. You really have to like, okay, unless you're on a phone call, in which case you have to have in place and say, okay, there are rules about these things, but or guidance. But yeah, just given that little bit of time is so much more powerful. And it does wonders for you, the parent, because you feel fantastic after giving that, because the conversation is going to be so much more powerful. It's going to be so much more fulfilling. So you're going to feel great, and you're like, okay, this is working. This is a good thing to do. So you'll do it more often.
It's awesome. So anything else for the parents before we transition to the teens?
So parents, just don't forget about yourselves. We tend, again, the moms, like, we tend to put ourselves to the bottom of the list, and I've done this. And it's the last to sit down, the last to rest, the last one to get the option of going to the gym class or the favorite thing you want to do. We really need to learn to stop putting ourselves last, because we need to feed ourselves first. Because when we're constantly last, it means that we're constantly tired, we're constantly cranky, or it can feed to crankiness. That can feed to anxiety, and that creates a negative atmosphere in the house. And everyone feeds off that energy, that negative energy, and that snowballs, and you've got you're just on a hamster wheel then of just trying to get off and what's wrong with everybody. But really, if you actually just sort yourself out, then you're like, okay, now I'm full, now I can give to you, and everyone feels that harmony. So just learning to, so what I would say to anyone listening here today is, have a look in your day-to-day every week. Where are you forgetting about yourself? Where are you not getting that moment to sit down and rest, that moment to go off and do a walk, and just saying, wait, everybody just needs to wait. Mom needs something. Mom needs her fix first, and then we'll sort to you. And yeah, you know what? If you've been doing it the other way for ages, it's going to be a shock.
Yes.
But what's really good is to have a conversation. And this is actually another tip. Have conversations, as many as you need to have, and let it be like, can we just sit? Can we just sit for a few minutes? Can we just have a little conversation? Here's what's happening. Here's how I feel. This is what's happening in the house as a result, or I feel it's not great. How do you feel about it? Bringing kids into conversations, make them part of decision-making processes, where you're about to start a star chart or a consequence thing, or I hate the word consequence, but let them be part of the thing that you're going to come up with, the system that you're going to put in place. So say, like, a great example was lockdown. When we all got locked down in COVID, I would have said the first couple of days we were all scurrying around the place, and then it was like day 3, I was like, okay, stop, let's all sit down at the table. Let's see where we're at, put everything on the table that needs to be put on the table, and let's see, how are we going to make this work for the next couple of weeks or a couple of months? We didn't know at the time. What does everybody need, and how are we all going to figure it out together? And when everyone's part of that conversation, and then what comes out of it is a list of things, everyone feels that they were contributors to that list. That makes them own it more fully, and that makes them contribute as an acted out. They will actually create that because they were all part of the design process, so to speak.
I
The
love it.
conversations, have the conversation, sit down and chat. And they are people, they're little people, some of them, but they're still people, and they have great ideas. You know, sometimes we think we've got the answers for them. Do you know what? They can have an even better one.
There you go. I love it. Yes. Okay. So what would you say to our teens? What are your thoughts that you want to address to them?
Yeah, so teens, I suppose again, coming from it from the my point of view of all this personal development work I've done for myself through coaching,
Mm-hmm.
and having obviously the teenagers in the house, and seeing what's going on in schools, and what's, you know, what I suppose our country, our world expects from kids, the next steps. My biggest, I suppose, I'd love to see it brought in that the kids who do their exams, and I know they're you know, higher levels, and they're called different things in different countries, but say the Leaving Certs here in Ireland, it's so much pressure in the year that they're doing one of their biggest exams in their life, or the biggest exam in their life, is the same year that they have to decide what it is they're going to do with the rest of their life.
Mm-hmm.
And the two things are so big. I just feel that there's such a disjoint of pressure in that one couple of months, and that really we need to separate it out. Now, some kids know, you know, when they're 3 or 4, what they want to be when they grow up, and they're, you know, they're actually created for that purpose, and it's very clear. But a lot of the majority of us don't. And what ends up happening is kids go from, you know, doing their final A levels or whatever, and then they're into a college course, which they have no idea really what it's about. But because their friends were going, or because parents kind of thought, listen, do this, this will do you good. And 3 or 4 years later, you know, hate every single bit of it. And you have to go find it all again. What I would love to see is really that space, a year where kids have that break. Okay, I've done my exams. Let's just maybe, you know, work for a little while and see what I could do then. Let the world, let the world sit with me for a while. Let me see what's happening, because you've been in a school situation since you're 4 years of age, up to when you're 18, sometimes 19. And you haven't actually got to just a chance to just breathe and step away and say, what is this world all about? You know, we're just put them on this little society train, and it's just one stop after another until maybe, usually people are like mid, late 20s, even in their 30s, before they realize, hang on a minute, how did I get on this train? You put me on here. So it's a lot about, I would just think, take a step back. I'm not saying don't go to college, but I'm just saying even try and take a step back. And if you don't have it figured out, that's okay, because you have the rest of your life to do so. It feels very squashed and tight at the point when you're doing those exams. It feels like, you know, this is it. This is my only opportunity. But this is only like the tiniest step at the very start.
That's
You're
awesome.
so much.
You know what? I've never thought of it like that. You just kind of associate certain things with your last year in high school. And for a lot of people, that's going to a college and declaring, you know, what your major is going to be. And we wonder why some young people change their major so many times, because they haven't had a chance to figure out, you know, who they are as a free human, and to your point, not in a school system. And I never thought about it the way you said it. You know, they're making two of the most important decisions that they've ever had to make. They have to pass this major exam, and then they, you know, are being asked to say, okay, tell us what you want to do for the rest of your life, all in that 1 year. Get used to being an adult. So yeah, that is a very interesting way to look at that.
Yeah, you know, and they're okay, they're 17, 18, 19, it depends on when they started school, but they're still kids. I
Yes.
mean, the brain is still developing. And I know years ago we were all chucked out at 15 and 16 and thrown into the wild world. But you know, that wasn't necessarily right either. But yet in that way a lot of us got experience through work first to figure it out.
That's right.
There's a lot more focus on going to college now. It's nearly like, you know, the thing. And it's like just step back and just see, yeah, look at your courses, but build up your points. And if you just can't see it, if nothing's feeling good to you right now, you know, take the year, work. Because when you do a year of employment, I feel personally, when you've been in an institution, because school is an institution, all the way up with rules, you stand up, you sit down, you know, here's when you can eat, here's when you can go to the toilet, the whole way through. You know, don't run the corridors, whatever. You can't drink your bottle of water until you know it's break time or whatever. All this mental stuff. But you're with your peers the whole way, so you only ever know your peers and then your teachers. You leave then, if you go and experience working in the world, you're now living and working with people who have been out in the world. So you're listening to different conversations. You're getting a different viewpoint. And that opens up your brain. It's no longer just all the other little teens with their limited brains. You're actually exposed and you're learning and you're absorbing. And, you know, you allow that space to come. And then you get to kind of say, okay, do you know what? I see now, I'll keep doing this maybe for another year. And now I see I'd love to actually go and do this for a while and see what goes like that. And actually, that's the other thing, is deciding what you want to do for the rest of your life at 18 is not actually true anyway, because a lot of us in our 40s or 50s are still trying to figure out what it is we want to do when we grow up. So it's ever changing, and people change all the time now, change careers, change functions constantly now. Years ago, you kind of got into your job and you stayed with it.
Yes.
Pension. It doesn't have to be that way. So just, you know, I would say to teenagers, just focus on the now, focus on your study, go in every day, listen to your teachers, do your homework, do your study, go to your exam. Just focus on that. Focus on every day, turn up and do the best that you can do in that one day. Go to bed, you wake up the next day, you do the best that you can do in that one day.
That makes sense.
And just see where it goes, knowing that you do have a purpose, something will come to you, but just, you know, just without the pressure. It's all good.
Awesome. You know what? The name of your company makes so much sense based on the advice that you just shared. Inspire Action Success. So tell us what, if anything, you have coming up at Inspire Action Success, and make sure that people understand, if they want to reach out to you for coaching, exactly what type coaching programs you have and how they can connect with you.
Great. Well, Inspire Action Success was a name. I sat down and I said to myself, what do I want to call myself? I didn't want to call it Fiona Brennan Coaching. And I said, well, what do I want to do? What do I want to help people do?
I love it.
When I sat down for a while and I eventually I said, well, I want to inspire them to take action so that they can create the success that they want. And that was it, Inspire Action Success. Which leads me then to, I suppose, saying I do work with business owners, but I work with a lot of women, and a lot of women who happen to be parents. And I've got a group coaching program starting in January, but I have a free masterclass coming up in January that will help give you a taste of what I do.
Awesome.
And the masterclass is on January the 13th. And it's all about looking at what you want to create in 2022. What sort of a life you'd want to create, what are the goals you want to make happen, and taking you through some foundational elements to help you to put in place to help that happen. And the masterclass may be all you want, but if you wanted a little bit more support, my group program is starting at the end of January. And that's really for anyone who wants to develop themselves personally, to experience more joy in their life without the overwhelm, without the anxiety. So it applies to parents as well as business owners. Because as a business owner, you are only your business is only as powerful as you are. And we are very powerful on the inside, but we let all the external stuff keep us small.
Yeah.
That we've gathered and picked up through our lives. So the group program there's a lot of personal development work in it, as well as helping you put into action the plans and the goals that you want to make happen in 2022.
Awesome. So what's the best way for people to connect with you? What's your website?
So my website is inspireactionsuccess.com. And there's you can book a call with me there. There's a few little links on there that you can connect with me. I'm also on LinkedIn, Fiona M. Brennan on LinkedIn. So you can see a lot of my stuff there.
Well, I just want to give you a personal testimonial. There may be some people watching who know this, but for those who do not, I have no mental wellness background officially, other than personal experience with some family members who had some mental issues. But I wanted to host a global mental wellness event, and I hosted it in September. And I will tell you, Fiona inspired action, and we had a successful event. And her supportive nature, but her ability to keep you focused, to ask you questions that keep you on track because it's your goal that you've shared with her. I just think it's the perfect combination of support, but challenge, keeping you focused, making sure you're considering everything that's going to help your event be a success. So it's almost, they say accountability partners, you get an accountability coach, and then always coming up with ideas. Hey, would this help it be more successful? Would that be? It's great to have someone advise you, but it's a different feeling when they're coaching you and advising you and you feel like they're in your corner. So I love the name of your company. It's so reflective of the way that you interact with your clients, with people around you. So I want to personally, on camera, give you an official thank you.
Oh, thank you, Elaine. You are so welcome. And it was fun, and it was great experience working with you for those few months leading up to September. So I'm just grateful for the opportunity. I look forward to the next one later on this year. So
we're doing it all again.
We're doing it all again. Bigger and better.
Yes. So I do encourage, I plan to be at that masterclass on January 13th. I will put the information in the description for this video so that anybody out there who is watching, it's a free class. Why not come and do some assessments and get some advice on how to reach your goals and things you can do to make sure you're successful. So what a generous offer, Fiona, and thank you for all of the wonderful advice that you've given us today. Thank you.
Thank you, Elaine. You're so welcome. Thank you so much. Thanks to everyone for listening. So I appreciate it.
Yes. So I want to thank our listeners for joining us for this episode of Empower Teen Self-Esteem. Please stay around as we have more episodes coming in the future. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Empower Teen Self-Esteem. Please follow Kids More Sugar on social media. Please do subscribe to our YouTube channel to show that you support this content. And you can visit our website at kidsmoresugar.com to learn more about our free online kids program. Thank you.